I'm proud that you survived that hell.
One begins by understanding that we are dreaming, both on a personal and a collective level. Our emotions are wonderful tools. Being in touch with them allows us to experience life to the fullest. When we are aware, our emotions can teach us a variety of things. They can show us what we like and don't like, what's really important to us as opposed to what isn't. And they can provide a wonderful guide to discovering the work we are meant to do in the dream of the planet. For instance, when you are faced with an important decision and you are unsure of which course of action to take, one thing that can help you is to focus on how you feel about the options presented, instead of being consumed with the stories your narrators are spouting. As you get to know yourself better, this type of discernment becomes a very effective tool for recognizing what you really want. Your emotions can also show you where you are still holding on to attachments and reveal any remaining fears and self-doubts from past domestications that you haven't yet released. Sometimes you won't even realize you have an attachment until an event triggers an emotional reaction in you. Anytime you feel a burst of anger, frustration, guilt, shame, or any number of other negative emotions, that's your cue to look within and see what is happening. Where is this feeling coming from? When have I experienced this before? What is the source of this feeling? Once you are aware of what's happening inside, you are able to calm yourself and stop the downward spiral before you lose control. While anger is a common emotional reaction, it is by no means the only one. Shutting down, being defensive or passive-aggressive, feeling guilty or remorseful, or any unhelpful reactions in between are additional ways in which you can react emotionally and lose awareness of your authentic self. Whether your tendency is to be consumed with anger and rage, or to sulk silently in the corner, the underlying cause of all these emotional reactions is always fear. When fear overtakes you and sparks an emotional reaction, your attachments and domestications are now running the show. Becoming a master of self is about noticing when you begin to have an emotional reaction and asking yourself immediately, what am I afraid of? The quicker you can identify and release the fear, the faster you become regrounded in the authentic self. Any emotional reaction you experience is yours, not anyone else's. And consequently, it is here to teach you something about yourself. The master of self sees this as an opportunity to learn and grow. And in doing so, you can deal with these emotions before they lead to an outburst that causes harm to your personal dream or the dream of the planet. An emotional reaction leaves you stuck, unable to move forward until you look more deeply at whatever the emotion is trying to tell you. There will always be those moments when you can't walk away, when you just have to deal with the person or situation at hand right then. Can you stay grounded in your authentic self and show the other person respect? As a master of self who wants to maintain control of his or her will and have unconditional love for all in the dream of the planet, you can stay balanced much more easily if you find out why this person has the unique ability to provoke a reaction in you. Think about it. Of all the people in the entire world, This person can push your buttons maybe better than anybody else. This is a very special gift they are offering you, and freedom awaits as soon as you can find out why that is. It's possible that the person or situation provokes a deep memory of someone attempting to domesticate you and you resisting. If you can connect the dots and see that the reason this person bothers you is based on a past experience rather than the current situation, you have begun to eliminate their power to upset you, putting your will back into your control. Everyone is our mirror, and our reflection of things we don't like about ourselves is most vivid in those who have the same qualities. You may see a piece of yourself in this other person, even if you don't realize it. Whatever characteristic you see in another that you don't like is often a characteristic you see in some degree in yourself. This can be a hard truth to swallow at first, but it is also a useful tool to dissolve any negative internal reaction that occurs when dealing with someone else, because it allows you to see him or her as yourself. When you encounter someone who has an uncanny ability to provoke a reaction in you, it may be because you have an attachment to a belief that you feel needs to be defended. When you are very attached to your beliefs, conflicts are almost certain to arise. There's a big difference between defending a belief that protects your physical being and a belief that simply supports a position your ego holds dear. Knowing the difference between the two, as well as your commitment to respecting another's right to believe differently than you, is a way to release your attachment to a belief grounded in egotism and view the other person's viewpoint with respect. The next time you're in a situation and you begin to feel angry, defensive, guilty, sad, or anything similar arising, the first step is to spot the emotion. Admit it exists and accept that these feelings are inside you. Just identifying, admitting, and accepting the feelings often has a calming effect and begins the process of releasing them. What is this emotion here to show you? What are you trying to control, and why? A master of self recognizes that any negative emotions that are arising are really a gift, an opportunity for discovery, as no one else is responsible for your emotional reactions except you. This last sentence bears repeating. No one else is responsible for your emotional reactions except you. Others can say and do anything they like, but what happens inside you is only the result of what you are thinking and feeling. Sometimes you may find yourself in a situation where you have a negative emotion that you can't immediately identify the origin of. And even when you can, you are not able to release it because you can feel the emotion building. In those cases, restrain yourself from doing or saying anything at that moment if that is an option. Then remove yourself from the situation until you have more clarity. Is what I'm about to say coming from me or from my domesticated beliefs? If your statement is trying to impose a condition on the other, then I encourage you to look within and find new words. If you are coming from a place of awareness, whatever words come out of your mouth will be the right ones. Remember, coming from a place of unconditional love does not mean we say things that the other person will agree with or enjoy, but in those moments, we remember that we cannot control the other person's perception or reaction. We only have control over ourselves. When the other person no longer respects you, they will try to subjugate you to their will. To maintain respect for yourself, it is often wise to walk away before your emotions take over, and you do or say something you will later regret. A martial arts master will tell you that your mind is your most powerful weapon and your first line of defense. It takes discipline to use a fist to defend your physical body and not be tempted to become the tyrant of aggression. Always be aware of what lies on the other side of self-respect. The alternative is to allow your emotions to control you and to lash out in anger, overreact with defensiveness, or anywhere in between. The result of this type of behavior is always the same. You create suffering for yourself and others in the dream of the planet. Being a master of self does not mean we are robots without feelings, or that we never take the bait and react emotionally. But the downward spiral ends the moment you surrender to the truth. When you find the true source of the emotion, you can use that knowledge as an instrument of transformation. In the dream of the planet, people will often not act the way you want them to, or the way you think they should. They will not always agree with your ideas or your beliefs. This begs the question, how do you react when others don't behave the way you'd like them to? Do you try to impose your will and subjugate them to your point of view? Or are you able to step back and respect their point of view? Think of any recent conflict you've had with another person. Any instance where you and someone else had opposing viewpoints. In this conflict, what belief were you trying to subjugate the other person to? This is not an evaluation of whether a belief is right or wrong. The purpose is to become aware of what the belief is. Do you know where this belief came from? Is this a belief you want to maintain? There are no right or wrong answers here. It's fine if the belief is true for you, and it's fine if it's not. The point is to know so that you don't continue to fight for a belief you no longer believe in, as this is domestication in action. How did you treat the other person when they didn't agree with you? Did you respect their point of view, or did you try to coerce them into seeing things your way? What do you think the other person's belief is? Can you see another perspective on the same situation? Can you see how the other person's belief is true for them? As a master of self, you know avoiding all conflict is impossible. So when conflicts arise, your job is to look within, see what is true for you in the moment, and find a way to honor your own beliefs while simultaneously respecting the choices and beliefs of others. Perceive the world from a different point of view, whether you agree with it or not. And notice if your own attachments are clouding your view. In other words, could this person be right about any of their points? Feel your emotions. Notice any negative emotions that come up for you. If these emotions arise for you, finding their origin is where you will find your gift. When an emotional reaction starts inside you, not taking the bait and falling into the trap may require all the willpower you have. Through the power of your will, this is when respect and unconditional love come into play.